The ocean in December of 1872 was endless and cruel, its waves rolling like black mountains under a pale winter sky. For the men aboard the brigantine Dei Gratia, nothing seemed unusual as they cut through the waters of the Atlantic. But on the afternoon of December 5th, as the lookout scanned the horizon, a strange silhouette emerged in the haze. A ship, sails full, but drifting wrong, like a marionette whose strings had been cut. The call echoed across the deck. "Sail to starboard!" Captain David Morehouse raised his spyglass, and at once he felt unease settle in his stomach. The vessel was the Mary Celeste, a merchant brigantine that had left New York just weeks before, bound for Genoa with a cargo of industrial alcohol. He knew her captain, Benjamin Briggs, a respected sailor traveling with his wife and young daughter. But something was wrong. The Mary Celeste did not answer signals. No men moved upon her deck. Her course was erratic, as though the ship wandered without command. Morehouse ordered a boarding party. The men approached cautiously, climbing up the side of the silent ship. What they found has haunted sailors and historians for a century and a half. The Mary Celeste was deserted, completely deserted. The lifeboat was gone, yet the ship itself was seaworthy. The sails were ragged but still usable. Below deck, the cargo was intact, barrels neatly stowed. In the galley, food lay prepared as though the crew had abandoned their meals mid-bite. In the captain's cabin, clothes were folded, charts laid out, a logbook with neat handwriting up to 10 days before. There was no sign of violence, no blood, no bodies, only silence. The men searched every corner, every shadow. They shouted names, listening for any response. Nothing, just the groaning of wood and the whisper of waves against the hull. The ship was a tomb without corpses. When Morehouse's men returned to the Dei Gratia, they brought with them fragments of confusion. The compass was damaged. The clock was broken. Some water had seeped into the hold, but nothing explained the disappearance of 10 souls. Captain Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and a crew of 7. They were simply gone. And so the Mary Celeste entered legend as a ghost ship, drifting across the ocean with its secrets locked tight. News spread fast when she was towed to Gibraltar. Newspapers screamed of curses, of sea monsters, of mutiny, but the official inquiry found no evidence, no foul play, only questions. Why would an experienced captain abandon a seaworthy ship with provisions for 6 months? Why leave behind belongings, charts, even pipes and tobacco? Why vanish into the endless Atlantic without a trace? Some whispered of pirates, but pirates did not leave valuables untouched. Others spoke of waterspouts or sudden storms, yet the ship bore no scars of nature's fury. And then there were the stranger tales. Sailors began to speak of lights in the sky the night the Mary Celeste was last seen, a glow that hovered above the horizon, then vanished with unnatural speed. Fishermen along the Azores whispered of a brilliant flash that lit the ocean as though dawn had come too soon. Were these only rumors, born from fear and the hunger for stories? Or were they fragments of a truth too unsettling to accept? The Mary Celeste became a riddle that mocked reason, a ship intact, her people erased, as though plucked from reality by an unseen hand. What power could take 10 souls in silence, leaving everything else untouched? Even in Gibraltar, where the inquiry dragged on, whispers of the supernatural spread through taverns and alleys. Some claimed the crew had been abducted by beings from beyond the stars, visitors who chose the open sea for their harvest. Others feared darker forces, that the ocean itself had claimed them, drawn them down into some abyss that left no trace. But the ship itself told a quieter story. Scratches along the rail that suggested something had been tied there and then released. A faint smell, metallic and strange, lingering in the air. And in the logbook, the last entry, coordinates placing the ship near the Azores, the handwriting calm, ordinary, with no hint of disaster. And then, silence. The Mary Celeste was more than a mystery. It was a wound in the fabric of reason. For if a ship could be found adrift, whole and untouched, yet stripped of its very crew, what else could be taken? How safe was the sea, or the world itself, from forces beyond understanding? For those who first boarded her, the memory lingered. The quiet deck, the abandoned meals, the eerie sensation that eyes watched from nowhere. Sailors are no strangers to superstition, but here was no ghost story told at night around the fire. This was real. They had walked her empty halls. They had touched her abandoned possessions, and they had felt the weight of her silence. The ocean has many secrets, but none so chilling as a ship that sails without men. The Mary Celeste drifted into history as a ghost ship, but behind the ink and the legends lies a moment in time, frozen like a scream swallowed by the sea. December 1872. 10 souls lost, a ship abandoned but not broken, a mystery that has never been solved. And for those who stare too long into the silence of her decks, one thought grows louder than all others. If it could happen to them, could it happen again? And if it was not storm or mutiny or madness that claimed the Mary Celeste, then what hand reached down from the unknown and carried them away? The Mary Celeste arrived in Gibraltar under tow, her ghostly silence broken only by the creak of ropes and the murmur of waves. Crowds gathered at the docks to see the ship without a crew, her sails ragged, her decks deserted. It was more than a curiosity. It was a riddle that demanded answers. Authorities launched an inquiry, led by the naval officer Frederick Solly Flood. He walked the decks with suspicion, his eyes sharp, his mind already leaning toward foul play. Why abandon a ship so sound? Why leave food, clothing, water, everything needed for survival? To him, it smelled of mutiny. He imagined the crew rebelling, killing Captain Briggs and his family, then fleeing in the missing lifeboat. But there was no blood, no signs of violence, no stolen cargo. The barrels of alcohol were still there, intact, though 9 of them were discovered leaking. Was this the key? Could fumes from the alcohol have frightened the crew, convinced them the ship might explode? Did Captain Briggs order everyone into the lifeboat, tethered to the ship, only for the rope to snap, leaving them adrift as the Mary Celeste sailed on without them? It was a theory, but no lifeboat was ever found. No bodies ever surfaced. The ocean swallowed every trace. Other theories soon blossomed, each stranger than the last. Some whispered of pirates, but pirates did not leave valuables untouched. Some spoke of seaquakes or waterspouts, violent forces of nature that could terrify even seasoned sailors. Yet the Mary Celeste bore no scars of battle with the sea. Her hull was sound, her masts intact. Solly Flood pressed his mutiny theory, but his evidence was weak, his logic fragile. The newspapers fed the public's hunger for mystery. They called her a cursed ship, haunted by the souls of the vanished. Cartoonists sketched sea monsters rising from the depths to snatch sailors from her decks. In taverns, men spoke of the Bermuda Triangle, though it was far from these waters. Others muttered of unnatural lights seen in the sky near the Azores, of a glow that lit the sea in the nights when the Mary Celeste last sailed with her crew. Was it lightning, a meteor, or something far stranger? To sailors, the sky and the sea were alive with omens, and this was the most chilling omen of all, that men could vanish without a sound, without a struggle, without a trace. The official inquiry dragged on. Testimony was heard, logs examined, charts studied, but the truth slipped through their fingers like water. In the end, Solly Flood failed to prove mutiny. The crew of the Dei Gratia were cleared of suspicion. The Mary Celeste was released to sail again under new hands, but her name was already cursed. No sailor could forget the sight of her empty deck, her ghostly silence. No captain could banish the thought that perhaps the sea itself had claimed the crew, or something even more unearthly. The investigation left more questions than answers. Why would an experienced captain abandon ship when she was perfectly seaworthy? Why were belongings left untouched, as if their owners had expected to return within moments? Why did no one ever find the lifeboat? Why did the ocean remain silent, hiding its secret forever? In Gibraltar, Solly Flood closed the case, but the whispers continued. Theories multiplied, each more desperate than the last. And yet, beneath them all, one terrible possibility lingered, that the crew of the Mary Celeste had not chosen to leave, that they had been taken. As the years passed, the Mary Celeste drifted deeper into legend. The unanswered questions multiplied like shadows. Without proof, imagination filled the void, and soon the story of the ghost ship took on a darker, more otherworldly shape. Sailors spoke of curses, saying the ship was doomed before she ever left New York. They whispered that a phantom had walked her decks, unseen by the living, waiting to claim the crew. Some claimed the alcohol in the hold was cursed itself, its vapors driving men mad, forcing them to leap screaming into the sea. Others said the ship had sailed into waters where no man should go, where the veil between worlds was thin. From the Azores came a story of fishermen who saw strange lights in the sky the week the Mary Celeste was last sighted, a glow that shimmered above the horizon, pulsing like a heartbeat. They swore the light descended toward the ocean, then vanished. One fisherman claimed he saw a shadow, vast and circular, hovering above the waves. His story was dismissed as madness, but in taverns his words spread like fire. Soon, the tale of the Mary Celeste was bound forever to the possibility of something beyond human reach. Theories turned darker. Some said the crew had been seized by sea creatures, pulled down into the abyss by tentacles no man had ever seen. Others suggested time itself had folded, that the Mary Celeste had drifted into a rift, leaving her crew stranded in another dimension while the ship sailed on. But the most unsettling whispers were of abduction, not by pirates, not by storms, but by visitors from the sky. The parallels were chilling. Bright lights, sudden disappearance, no signs of struggle, objects left behind, as though their owners had been plucked from reality in an instant. In the 20th century, when reports of flying saucers and alien abductions began to spread, researchers returned to the story of the Mary Celeste. They saw in it the same patterns, the same silence, the same impossible absence. Could the crew have been taken by something not of this earth? If so, why leave the ship? Why leave the evidence of their lives untouched, as though mocking those who would one day discover it? The more the story was told, the more it grew. Writers added monsters, ghosts, even mutiny and murder. But beneath the fiction lay a truth too disturbing to erase. 10 souls had vanished without explanation, and in their absence, humanity stared into the void of its own ignorance. For if such a thing could happen once without warning, then what safety was there on sea or land? The Mary Celeste became a warning, a tale told by sailors with trembling voices. A ship that carried no bodies but bore the weight of fear itself, a reminder that the ocean holds secrets not meant to be understood. And above it all, the same question remained, echoing across time. What hand had reached down into the Atlantic that day and carried them away? Decades turned to centuries, but the ghost of the Mary Celeste never faded. Each new generation discovered her story and felt the same unease. She was not just a ship, she was a wound in history. Writers immortalized her, turning fact into fiction, weaving tales of curses and sea monsters. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle himself crafted a lurid story of mutiny and bloodshed, cementing her place in popular imagination. But the truth was darker than any fiction, because it was unsolved. And the unsolved breeds fear. In the 20th century, when humanity looked to the skies and found strange lights staring back, the Mary Celeste returned to the conversation. UFO researchers saw her as the earliest case of mass abduction. The patterns matched too closely. Sudden disappearance, no signs of struggle, reports of strange lights near the last recorded position. The crew of the Mary Celeste, they argued, had been the victims of the same phenomenon that would later terrify farmers, pilots, and whole towns. If this was true, then the mystery was not confined to the ocean. It was a piece of something larger, a war in the shadows, a harvest. Skeptics scoffed, but the story refused to die. Expeditions returned to her tale, searching for the missing lifeboat, scanning the seafloor for wreckage that never appeared. They found nothing, only silence. The Mary Celeste's legacy grew heavier with each passing year. She became a symbol not just of maritime mystery, but of the unknown itself. The ship still sails in imagination, her decks empty, her sails full, her wheel unmanned. A ghost adrift forever, asking questions humanity cannot answer. Was she the victim of storm, mutiny, or madness? Or was she the first public proof that mankind is not alone? To this day, no body has been found. No lifeboat, no proof. Only the hollow certainty of absence. The Mary Celeste remains unsolved, a riddle that drifts across time like her ship across the ocean. And perhaps that is the most terrifying truth of all, that sometimes the universe does not give answers, it only takes. And in the silence of that taking, we are left to wonder who will be next.